Well, the Germans are very clever. They have words that mean multiple things. So I found a word that described what I was trying to convey. And it is my grandmother, who's still alive, her deepest pain. And so it is called Franz Erlebnis. Erlebnis, if I'm not saying it right, I apologize to the Germans. It means one's darkest pain, the most painful thing that almost identifies you, right? And so this pain of hers has trickled down. And as the youth have been saying, we're going to cut generational curses. We're going to cut them. So by revealing the story in a way that could give my grandmother, who was 4 when this happened, a voice, when during a time when children did not have a voice, I think I managed to cut some of the curses that we might have. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in. In 1907, Viola Kibbe was abandoned at a New York City hospital by her mother. Her grandparents, Mr. and Mrs. Francis Kibbe, took her home. Viola's quiet manner via finishing school training attracted debonair tenant farmer Wallace Turner. Young love married quickly despite the times. They moved to the Catskills, producing 3 babies in quick succession. Frances, their oldest child, had one experience which carried in her words profound sadness my whole life. This is her Erlebnis. By 1929, the Great Depression hit. For Fran, this would be a permanent state. Viola Kibbe's pre-weakened rheumatic heart stopped at dawn on December 7th, 1931. Her remains included an ornately gold-finished dining room table bought in New York City. Viola's grandfather, Francis Kibbe, was who Fran is named for. Fran found Viola dead in bed, eyes wide, tongue protruding out, and an arm outstretched. "Daddy, what's wrong with Mommy?" Wallace shooed her. No one spoke to her, their silence lasting, deafening. The New York City table remained with family long after Viola's death. It was the same one that Grandma Fran witnessed her mother being embalmed on. Frances had night terrors thanks to this, waking up panicked that someone had taken her mommy away. She would look upon the cold, empty table that mocked her in its ambivalence at her tremendous pain. Death on a rural farm meant that Viola was laid out on the table she came with. That table was used for everything. The mortician arrived. He silently worked on her nude, motionless body. Upon seeing Viola, Fran still recalls the little patch of black hair down there, as clearly as a bird sings its morning song. Get it? Morning? It shocked her and stuck with her always. At the funeral, Fran was left to sob on her own. The adults did not bother to comfort her with reassurances. She cried and cried, a deep ache settling into her. After the funeral, Grandma Edna Turner finally spoke to Fran, handing her a package wrapped in newspaper. "Santa Claus won't be able to make it this year." She opened it with care, rarely getting gifts, and saw the best gift I ever got. Fran panted all day with her brand new watercolor set. She never saw the Kibbes again. Dad remarried less than a year later. Lula Payne was 19 and jealous. The Turner family gathered for Sunday supper on that very table, whose gold reflected sunlight coming in through the window, light dancing on the walls. Life went on. It was essential that chores get done or face death from starvation or hypothermia. Wood stoves do not heat themselves. Kerosene was not free. They could not waste fuel. Fuel meant life. It was warmth, food, clean clothes, and light when all was dark. Before dark took over, it was right to bed before the kerosene gave out or the wood stopped burning. But in the dark was where Fran's fears would find her, flooding her vision with images she wished would leave her. Her night terrors ended finally after one good licking, Wallace would later admit. More than anything else, Fran carried this trauma of discovering a dead parent all these years. Nobody talked back then. Silent generation. Breeding a cycle of fear that she would also leave her children too soon, like Viola had. 97 trips around the sun later, Fran craves the affection she never got, yet unable to express her truths fully for having been brutally silenced at such an early age. She eventually found her voice, landing her a Kennedy type. Arnold Radwich had walked into the fountain shop she worked at. It was love at first sight. Till it wasn't. A story for another day. Fran impressed Arnold immensely because her family ate together on Sundays at a fancy dining room table. That table, which mocked Fran with its vivid visions of her dead naked mother playing like a bad film between slides of normalcy. Lighter moments, like when Lula tried to make apple tapioca pie. Or during spring, when Wallace brought in the woodchuck he easily shot, then parboiled it before frying it up in farm-fresh butter, served with raw milk gravy and potatoes, always on a wood-burning stove. The following week, Wallace would make a huge pot of spaghetti sauce, filling the home with wonderful smells. Suddenly, dark red sauce splattered onto her mother's oh-so-lovely cherry-wood gold-inlaid New York City table, transporting Fran back. She envisions Viola once more. The mortician took the plastic hose sticking out of her mother's pale arm, and the last bit of congealed blood oozed out, slowly, drip by drip. It forever marked the refined furniture as a harbinger of death. The table had been scrubbed, but Fran knew her mother's blood was somehow still there. An invisible stain penetrating her mind's eyes like a seed placed in the dirt, rising from the dark as the sun helps it to bring life to itself. Fran knew deep down she had to keep growing like that seed, rising from the dark into the light. The Turners moved 10 times before Fran was in high school, which caused more fear. Would she end up just an old housewife, never having her own permanent home? She survived bouts of serious illness. The same year she battled MS, Wallace Turner died, and Arnold left her penniless. She would lose one breast to cancer. Despite Fran's heavy sadness, she persisted. Fran beat most of her fears by owning and keeping the same home since 1948. She remains there to this day. She raised 6 children in her home, hugging them whenever she wanted, protecting them from any pain. Her children gave her 10 grandchildren, and those grandchildren have produced 7 great-grandchildren so far. Life is the irlandness, tragic while simultaneously being funny, ironic, painful, sad, anger-inducing, envious, and fear-filled, or inducing. Love enables us to persevere. The table persevered for many years. Last Fran knew was with a brother, Edwin, or Edgar maybe. Viola remains within us all, despite that fancy table, a legacy lost to the ravages of time. Thank you.